July 25, 1944, St. Lo Sector, Normandy 1st U.S. Army under General Omar N. Bradley unleashed artillery with devastating precision. Corps and Army batteries firing 105mm howitzers, 155mm guns and heavier calibers, synchronized shells to land within seconds. Time on target delivered barrages with impacts arriving within seconds, maximizing shock. German reports described positions churned into moon-like wastelands, communications severed and command paralyzed under near-simultaneous impacts. No rolling barrage warned defenders. Destruction arrived almost at once at critical points, shattering expectations. Normandy's bocage, with dense hedgerows and sunken lanes, had stalled Allied advances for weeks. German defences, led by Panzer Lehr Division and 7th Army elements, used terrain to inflict heavy casualties. Bradley's 1st U.S. Army faced a brutal stalemate west of St. Lo, where progress bled men and time. Operation Cobra, the planned breakout, relied on overwhelming force at hour. Artillery coordinated through fire direction centres became the linchpin. Survey teams mapped positions. Meteorological data adjusted for conditions. Slide rule calculations aligned time of flight differences for mixed calibers. German troops dug into fortified strongpoints, anticipated traditional sequential barrages, allowing time to brace or disperse. Time on target erased this window. Batteries linked by FM radio nets and Fort Sill trained crews massed fires across divisional boundaries. A single corps could mass multiple battalions across divisional boundaries for concentrated fires. German observers noted headquarters' stunned signal lines cut and survivors reeling under a deluge without prelude. Artillery's precision, with impacts arriving within seconds, turned firepower into a psychological weapon, paving the way for Cobra's armoured thrust. Mid-July 1944 thrust 1st U.S. Army under General Omar N. Bradley into a grueling struggle around St. Lo. Normandy's bocage terrain, dense hedgerows, sunken lanes and rolling fields fortified German defences, turning each advance into a costly slog. Panzer Lehr Division and elements of 7th Army, entrenched in interlocking strongpoints, exploited the landscape to inflict heavy casualties. Operation Cobra, planned for July 25 to 31st, 1944, aimed to shatter this front west of St. Lo. Its objective was to breach the German line, open a corridor toward Coutances and Avranches, and enable operational manoeuvre across Normandy. Cobra's success rested on delivering overwhelming shock at hour, pairing a single-day air bombardment with artillery's time on target to disrupt German cohesion. The bocage created a defender's paradise. Hedgerows, often centuries old and thick with earth, stood as natural walls limiting visibility to mere yards. Sunken lanes flanked by these barriers channeled Allied tanks into ambushes, where German anti-tank guns and artillery, pre-registered on likely approaches, struck with precision. Panzer Lehr's mobile reserves, supported by 7th Army's fortified positions, maintained a stubborn defence, forcing Bradley's troops to pay dearly for every field. Cobra's plan targeted a narrow front west of St. Lo, where heavy and medium bombers would carpet the corridor with high explosives. Artillery delivering shells with impacts arriving within seconds would sustain the pressure, smashing surviving strongpoints as armoured divisions pushed south toward Coutances. Bradley's challenge was to break the stalemate without exhausting his forces. The Normandy campaign, already 6 weeks old, had drained men and material. Prolonging the fight risked ceding momentum before winter. Success in Cobra would unlock Brittany open routes to the Seine and collapse German lines, setting conditions for a pursuit across France. Failure would bog the Allies in attritional warfare, giving Germany time to reinforce its western front. Artillery became the keystone, with time on target offering a tactical edge. By synchronizing 105mm howitzers and 155mm guns, 1st U.S. Army could deliver concentrated fires that denied German troops time to react, a capability honed through Fort Sill's rigorous doctrine. German commanders, seasoned in defensive warfare, relied on the bocage to blunt Allied advances. Their troops dug into fortified positions, expected traditional barrages, sequential fires that allowed time to take cover or reposition. Time on target upended this calculus. Shells timed to land near simultaneously across multiple target areas struck without audible prelude, severing communications and stunning headquarters. The technique's precision, with impacts arriving within seconds, amplified its shock, disrupting German command at the critical moment. Bradley's artillery, coordinated through fire direction centers, leveraged survey data, meteorological corrections, and slide rule computations to align mixed calibers, turning raw firepower into a synchronized instrument of chaos. The stakes of Cobra extended beyond St. Lo. A breakthrough would shift the campaign's tempo, enabling 1st U.S. Army to exploit open terrain and outpace German reserves. Armored divisions poised to pour through the breach depended on artillery to suppress counterattacks and maintain momentum. The German defense, though formidable, hinged on cohesive command and rapid response, both vulnerable to time on target's sudden, overwhelming barrages. Bradley's plan required every element, air, artillery and ground forces, to align at hour with artillery's role, extending from the initial shock to sustained support as 7 Corps drove toward Avranches. Cobra's artillery system, built on standardized training and reliable FM radio nets, allowed 1st U.S. Army to mass fires across divisional boundaries. A single corps could mass multiple battalions across divisional boundaries for concentrated fires. This scalability gave Bradley a tool to disrupt German tactics, which relied on localized counterfires and fortified strongpoints. Impacts arriving within seconds, a planning aim ensured maximum lethality in the barrage's opening moments when troops were most exposed. German soldiers, braced for rolling barrages, faced a new reality, with shock striking at multiple points along the sector, shattering positions and morale before they could adapt. Time on target's effectiveness stemmed from meticulous engineering and disciplined execution across 1st U.S. Army's artillery echelons. Forward observers positioned with infantry relayed target coordinates using maps and meteorological data to fire direction centers at battalion, group, division, and corps levels. These centers, staffed with Fort Sill trained crews, used graphical firing tables and slide rule computations to calculate time of flight differences for 105mm howitzers, 155mm guns, and heavier calibers. Shells were synchronized to strike within seconds, ensuring near-simultaneous impact across a target grid. No ranging shots preceded the barrage. Surprise maximized lethality in the opening seconds. Fort Sill's standardized doctrine enabled centralized control, allowing corps to mass fires across divisional boundaries. Reliable FM radio nets linked batteries to FDCs, rapidly transmitting fire orders. Crews drilled in precision adjusted fuses and propellant charges to align mixed calibers, a process refined through months of training. The barrage's deadliest moment was its onset synchronized impacts denied German troops time to dive prone or reach cover. FDCs rapidly computed firing solutions under combat conditions. This speed, paired with accurate survey control, turned artillery into a weapon of instant devastation. German defenses built on fortified strongpoints and rapid counterfires were unprepared for time on target's abruptness. Traditional barrages provided audible cues, allowing troops to brace or disperse. This technique offered no such warning. Shells from dozens of guns calibrated to a single grid struck without prelude, shredding wire communications and stunning command posts. The system's reliance on data, precise gun positioning, wind corrections, and standardized ammunition made it scalable across Normandy's front. 1st U.S. Army's artillery, driven by information and logistics, transformed mathematical precision into battlefield chaos, enabling Operation Cobra's armored columns to exploit the resulting disarray. Panzer Lehr division under General Lieutenant Fritz Bayerlein bore the full force of Operation Cobra's opening on July 25, 1944. West of St. Lo, Bayerlein's positions faced a relentless sequence. Heavy bombers carpeted the corridor with high explosives, followed by artillery drumfire from 1st U.S. Army. Time on target concentrations, delivering shells with impacts arriving within seconds, obliterated trenches, severed roads, and shattered signal lines. Survivors described the ground as a moon-like wasteland churned by near-simultaneous impacts. The shock effect left German command paralyzed, unable to coordinate as U.S. armor advanced through the breached corridor. From the German perspective, the turning point was merciless. Traditional barrages allowed time to adjust or take cover. Time on target offered no reprieve. Bayerlines reports detailed headquarters losing contact with forward units, their field telephones, silenced by the barrage's opening seconds. The psychological toll matched the physical destruction. Troops trained to endure rolling fires were caught, exposed, their cohesion shattered. U.S. forces exploited this chaos, with 7 Corps pressing through gaps under cover of follow-on artillery concentrations, targeting surviving strongpoints. Panzer Lehr's losses were catastrophic, with critical combat power eroded in hours. Artillery's precision massing heavy concentrations, with impacts arriving within seconds, dismantled fortified positions and morale alike. Bayerline noted roads, cratered vehicles burning, and survivors pinned under relentless barrages. The synchronized fires, coordinated by fire direction centers, created a corridor of destruction, enabling U.S. infantry and tanks to advance toward Coutances. The German experience underscored time on target's dual role, a destroyer of physical defenses and an enabler of rapid exploitation, breaking resistance at the decisive moment of Cobra's launch. Operation Cobra's opening on July 25, 1944, unleashed heavy bombers over the St. Lo corridor, followed by 1st U.S. Army's time-on-target barrages. The 7th Corps, exploiting the shattered German line, drove armoured columns toward Coutances and Avranches. Artillery sustained the offensive, delivering massed concentrations to crush surviving strongpoints. Time-on-target missions, synchronized by fire direction centers, ensured shells landed within seconds, disrupting German attempts to reform. Sustained high rates of fire maintained pressure as U.S. forces advanced. At Mortain during Operation Lüttich from August 7 to 13, 1944, German panzer forces counterattacked to sever the Avranches corridor. Artillery coordinated across multiple divisions, responded with synchronized fires. Fire direction centers linked by FM radio nets rapidly adjusted. Time on target concentrations breaking up German thrusts before air and ground units completed the defense. In the Falaise pocket, August 1944, U.S. and Allied artillery targeted retreating German columns. Barrages on road nets and choke points timed for near-simultaneous impact, crippled withdrawals, aiding maneuver forces in tightening the encirclement. In Hürtgen Forest and Siegfried Line approaches autumn 1944, dense terrain and fortifications favoured defenders. U.S. artillery adapted using centralized control and pre-arranged time-on-target missions to suppress strongpoints at the instant of assault. Fire direction centers computed solutions under fire, ensuring precision despite costly conditions. The technique's versatility, scaling from corps-level barrages to battalion support, proved vital. From Cobra's initial shock to sustained disruption at Mortain and Falaise, artillery enabled 1st U.S. Army to maintain momentum, dismantling German resistance across Normandy's varied battlefields. German commanders, hardened by years of defensive warfare, expected artillery to follow familiar patterns, sequential barrages with audible build-ups, signaling an attack. On July 25, 1944, 1st U.S. Army's time on target shattered this assumption west of St. Lo. Shells, from 105mm howitzers, 155mm guns and heavier calibers, struck within seconds, delivering a concentrated blow without warning. Impacts synchronized across multiple grids, cut communications, buried bunkers, and halted movement before countermeasures could be organized. The miscalculation stemmed from German reliance on traditional artillery tactics. Their defenses, built around fortified strongpoints and mobile reserves, assumed time to react. Troops could dive for cover, headquarters could relay orders or counter battery fire, could disrupt attackers. Time on target erased this margin. Fire direction centers using graphical firing tables and slide rule computations aligned mixed calibers to land near simultaneously. The absence of ranging shots or prolonged barrages denied German observers cues to adjust. A single corps could mass multiple battalions across divisional boundaries for concentrated fires. This precision turned artillery into a weapon of instant paralysis, disrupting command and cohesion at the critical moment. The U.S. advantage was systemic, rooted in Fort Sill's standardized doctrine. Artillery crews trained to uniform procedures operated with mechanical precision. Survey teams mapped gun positions to within meters. Meteorological data corrected for wind and humidity. Standardized ammunition ensured consistent ballistics. FM radio nets, reliable even under combat stress, linked batteries to fire direction centers, enabling corps-level coordination rapidly. Radio nets quickly synchronized fires across divisions. This information-driven system, scalable across Normandy's front, outmatched German tactics which relied on localized counterfires and tactical improvisation. German headquarters, dependent on field telephones and runners, were particularly vulnerable. Time on targets opening salvos, severed wire communications, isolating forward units from command. Panzer Lehr division's reports described headquarters stunned, unable to relay orders as shells struck without prelude. Troops trained to endure rolling barrages were caught exposed, unable to reach cover before the ground erupted. The psychological impact amplified the physical survivors. Dazed in cratered positions, faced follow-on barrages that pinned them in place. U.S. forces exploited this disarray, with 7th Corps advancing through breaches as artillery sustained pressure on surviving strongpoints. The technique's scalability gave 1st U.S. Army a decisive tempo. A single fire direction center could choreograph fires across multiple battalions, adjusting targets in minutes, based on forward observer reports. This flexibility allowed artillery to shift from breaking the initial line at St. Lo to supporting exploitation toward Coutances and Avranches. German reserves attempting to counterattack were met with synchronized barrages that disrupted their cohesion before they could engage. The system's reliance on data, precise gun positioning, wind corrections, and mass-produced ammunition ensured consistency, even as combat conditions varied across Normandy's hedgerows and open fields. Time on target's impact extended beyond physical destruction. By targeting command and communications, it created a cascading effect. German units unable to coordinate fragmented under U.S. pressure. Panzer Lehr's losses at St. Lo illustrated this critical combat power. Eroded in hours left gaps that U.S. armor exploited. The technique's ability to deliver near-simultaneous impacts transformed artillery into a weapon of disruption, not just devastation. German tactics, effective against slower, predictable barrages, faltered against an opponent that could strike at multiple points along the sector, paralyzing decision-making at the decisive moment. This inflection point redefined artillery's role in Cobra and beyond. German expectations of localized tactical engagements were outpaced by a networked system that leveraged information and logistics. Fort Sill's doctrine, emphasizing centralized control and rapid computation, allowed 1st U.S. Army to orchestrate fires at a scale Germans could not counter. Impacts arriving within seconds, a planning aim ensured maximum lethality when troops were most vulnerable. As U. forces pressed toward Coutances, time on target's precision sustained their momentum, turning a tactical breakthrough into a strategic rout. The collapse of German assumptions at St. Lo marked a shift in the campaign. Artillery, once a blunt instrument, became a precision tool, integrating data communications and firepower. Its effects rippled through Mortain and Falaise, where synchronized fires continued to disrupt German counterattacks and withdrawals. Time on target's systemic advantage, built on standardization, training, and technology, proved that information could be as decisive as shells. For German commanders, the lesson was brutal. Their defenses, formidable in theory, crumbled under a system that left no time to react. Operation Cobra's breakthrough, catalyzed by time on target, reshaped the Normandy campaign with stunning speed. On July 28, 1944, 1st U.S. Armies, the 7th Corps reached Coutances, followed by Avranches on July 30th, opening a corridor for armoured divisions to surge toward Brittany and the Seine. Artillery's synchronized fires, delivering shells within seconds, shattered German defences at St. Lo, enabling this rapid advance. The technique's precision massing 105mm howitzers and 155mm guns dismantled Panzer Lehr's strongpoints, creating gaps for U.S. tanks to exploit. The breakout's success hinged on artillery's ability to sustain shock, disrupting German attempts to regroup. At Mortain, from August 7 to 13, 1944, German panzer forces launched Operation Lüttich to cut the Avranches corridor. First, U.S. Army's artillery responded with devastating time-on-target concentrations, coordinated across divisions. Fire direction centers linked by FM radio nets rapidly adjusted fires, breaking up German thrusts before air and ground units sealed the defense. In the Falaise pocket, August 1944, U.S. and Allied artillery targeted retreating German columns with relentless precision. Time-on-target barrages timed for near-simultaneous impact struck road nets and choke points, crippling withdrawals. These fires, coordinated by fire direction centers using forward observer data, amplified the encirclement's pressure-aiding maneuver forces in compressing the pocket. German units caught in congested terrain suffered heavy losses, with artillery's synchronized impacts disrupting their ability to escape. The technique's scalability, shifting from core-level barrages to pinpoint strikes, proved critical in tightening the noose. The legacy of time on target extended beyond Normandy's battlefields. Post-war, the principle of simultaneous impact became a cornerstone of U.S. and NATO artillery doctrine. Fort Sill's training, emphasizing centralized control, rapid computation, and standardized procedures, embedded the technique in military practice. Millions of rounds were expended in the European theater, a testament to logistical depth and sustained firepower. The introduction of proximity fuses late 1944 enhanced the technique's lethality, while later digital fire control systems built on its foundation. The concept, rooted in British innovation and scaled by U.S. industry, redefined artillery's role. Time on target's impact traced to its systemic strengths: data-driven precision, reliable communications, and massed coordination. Fire direction centers, using graphical tables and slide rule math, choreographed fires with mathematical accuracy. FM radio nets ensured real-time adjustments linking batteries across divisions. Standardized ammunition, consistent in weight and propellant, guaranteed predictable ballistics. This integration of information and logistics outpaced German tactics, which relied on localized counterfires and mobile reserves. At Saint-Lô, Mortain and Falaise, time on target's ability to deliver heavy concentrations with near-simultaneous impacts created a tempo German commanders could not match. The technique's influence persisted in Cold War exercises, where synchronized fires remained a tactical ideal. NATO artillery, trained to Fort Sill standards, adopted time on target's principles, integrating them with advanced targeting systems. The concept's World War II roots British theoretical work and U.S. operational scaling demonstrated the power of standardization and technology. German defences, formidable in hedgerow country, crumbled under a system that combined firepower with precision timing. Artillery's evolution into an information-driven weapon proved that data as much as shells could shift battles. Cobra's aftermath underscored time on target's transformative role. The breakout opened Normandy to Allied maneuver, collapsing German lines and setting conditions for the pursuit across France. At Mortain, artillery's rapid response preserved the Avranches corridor at Falaise. It sealed the pocket's fate. The technique's precision, with impacts arriving within seconds, remained a constant from St. Lo's hedgerows to Falaise's open roads. For first U.S. Army, time on target was both a tactical tool and a strategic enabler, proving that synchronized devastation could turn stalemates into victories. Its legacy, embedded in doctrine and technology, endured as a testament to artillery's power when wielded with unrelenting precision.